House of Israel International Services are held weekly at 3601 Rose Lake Drive, Charlotte, North Carolina, 28217, 11 a.m. Saturday mornings and 7 p.m. Thursday evenings, Eastern Time. This live broadcast is made possible through financial contributions from brothers and sisters like you. Your financial support is greatly appreciated. Thank you. Motivating. Inspiring. Challenging. Encouraging. Deepening. Strengthening. And enhancing your faith. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to House of Israel International's live worship service.
Yesterday, some interesting things happened. I was standing out of at a window in my house looking out the backyard, and I saw this strange sight. There was this bird doing something that I'd never seen before. This sparrow is what it looked like, and it flew up, it flew down, it flew up, it flew down, it flew up, and it flew down again. Now, those of you who've watched these hummingbirds, you can see that they do that kind of stuff. But this sparrow did this, and then he darted to a tree, another tree, and then to another branch, and then he left. And so I'm pondering that. Now, last night, as I'm sleeping, I'm having this strange type of sleep to where I'm asleep, but I'm awake. And while I'm sleeping, I'm watching myself being awake, watching myself sleep. I'm thinking, this is weird. And then I go into this dream. And in this dream, the house that I'm in, and I'm there, and there are hundreds of sparrows in the house. And they're all different colors, and there are nests everywhere. And I'm thinking, where did these things come from? And then I look over, and there's like holes in the room, and what look like colorful lizards looking at me. But then the lizards fly, and they weren't lizards; they were sparrow. Well, at least I thought they were sparrows. But so I woke up this morning, and I'm preparing today. And all of a sudden, the dream comes back to me. Because while I was in the dream, I looked for a broom. Because now I'm going to get all of these sparrows out of my house. I'm going to knock the nest down. There's nests sitting, and then there's nests hanging. And I never, really seen hanging nests, but that's what I'm seeing. And I noticed as I was trying to shoo the birds out, they were sitting there looking at me like, what are you doing? And I'm thinking, this is strange. Why is the bird looking at me, like, what are you doing? So as I'm pondering this morning, this is what I believe the Father spoke to me. Because I'm wondering why are these birds here? And I don't know if you know, because I got up after this, he said, the reason why the birds were there is because of the seeds, the word. There's food. The birds have found food. And you're not going to get rid of them. They're coming from all over the place. So this led me to go and, okay, I'm sitting at my Bible, and the Father leads me to this psalm, Psalms 84. And this is what it says. How amiable are thy tabernacles, O Jehovah of hosts. My soul longs, yea, even faint, for the courts of Jehovah. My heart and my flesh cry out for the living God. Yea, the sparrow has found a house, and the swallow a nest. Now, I go to the dictionary because I recognize the sparrow, but the lizard-looking flying things I never recognized. They were swallows. I look up swallow, and swallows burrow. Their nests are very different because they live in sand dunes, they live in holes. And so here it is in this place, the sparrow and the swallow have accumulated themselves. But this is what it says. And the swallow a nest for herself, where she may lay her young. And in the nest there were little babies, and they were being fed by the big birds. Even it says she may lay her young, even thine altars, O Jehovah of hosts, my King and my God. Now in another verse, it says that the sparrow and the swallow live in the place next to the altar. In other words, they made their nest in the temple, is what they are doing. And what the Father was showing me is that, listen, even though there are times, see, nobody can be harder on me than I am of myself. But what the Father was saying to us is that we're doing the work, that we're feeding people from all over the globe. And what he said is that these birds are representative of the people that you're reaching. Now, I'm looking at sparrows, and there's like 15 species of sparrows in the United States. But species, the swallows and the sparrows, are indigenous to 6 of the 7 continents. And then I went on YouTube and I started looking at the analytics of where people are joining us from. And do you know that there are 7 continents? We have people on all 7 continents that are joining us in our services. Because they're looking for food. They're looking to be fed. They're looking for meat. In this case, it's interesting that sparrows eat seed. The seed is the word. The sower sows the seed. Now, I'm not the kind of person, and those of you who know me, this is probably the first time I've ever started a message out concerning a dream. Because I don't get into those aspects, but when the Father is in something, I have to take note of it. And what he's saying to us is that, listen, we are making such a difference and such an impact in people's lives all over the globe. And I'm sitting there at my computer choked up. Because as I continue to read that, it says, yea, the sparrow has found a house and the swallow a nest for herself. And here it is, I'm trying to get rid of these sparrows and get them out of my house because it's like they're all over the place. But they're there because there's food. But look at the next few verses. Blessed are they that dwell in thy house. They will be still praising thee. Selah. Blessed is the man whose strength is in thee, in whose heart are the ways of them, who passing through the valley of Baca make it a well. The rain also filleth the pools. They go from strength to strength. Every one of them in Zion appears before Elohim. O Jehovah, God of hosts, hear my prayer. Give ear, O God of Jacob. Selah. For Jehovah God is a sun and shield. Jehovah will give grace and glory. No good thing will he withhold from them that walk uprightly. O Jehovah of hosts, blessed is the man that trusts in you. And there seems to be a verse that is missing here. There is. And I don't know how in the world I did that. Because it's verse 10. Psalms 84, verse number 10. Because it really speaks to my heart, and I know it speaks to the heart of so many others. But this is what it says. For a day in your courts is better than 1,000. I had rather be a doorkeeper in the house of Elohim than to dwell in the tents of wickedness. And so many times I remember saying, I'm just glad that I'm in the house. I'm so glad that I'm a part of what the Father is doing. I don't have to be up front. I'm just glad to be in the house. You hear what I'm saying? And the psalmist says, I would rather be a doorkeeper in the house of Jehovah, powerful, than to dwell in the tents of wickedness. For Jehovah is a sun and shield. Jehovah will give grace and glory. No good thing will he withhold from them that walk uprightly. O Jehovah of hosts, blessed is the man that trusts in you. This Psalms speaks so much to me that, when I really think about the whole idea of trusting, because I had to come to a place, like many of you, I had to be honest with myself. We can tell people, yeah, I trust God. Yeah, I trust God. Yeah, I trust God. But nobody know your thoughts. Nobody know what you think about when you're faced with issues that the Father is saying, do you trust me? How much we want to take things in our own hands. How much we want to make our own way. How much we want to fix a situation or fix a person. How much we talk about praying for somebody, but then God is not moving fast enough, so we got to help him out. You see, when we trust the Almighty, we literally back up and say, Father, you got this. I'm just going to watch you work. And whatever the outcome of this situation is, I accept it because I know that you know what's best for me. I think I know what's best for me, but I don't know. I really don't know. There are things that I thought I wanted, and once I got it, it's not what I wanted. There's some things when you've heard people say, be careful what you ask for, you just might get it. Be careful what you pray for, you just might get it. And yet the Father is bringing us to a place. And it's like, well, what has this got to do with how to hear his voice? You see, a major part of walking with the Father is trusting him to know better for you than you think you know for yourself. And let me tell you something, every one of you, I can look in your eyes and you think you're pretty smart. Every one of you. You got a better way of doing anything that somebody else is doing. You've got your way of doing it, which is opposed to maybe the way somebody else is doing it. You want to one up. You ever hear somebody who's telling a story and it's like, let me tell you what happened to me. Well, that's nothing. Let me tell you about my situation. You see. Because as human beings, that's the way we are. That's our nature. And the Father is saying, do you really trust me? This really struck home to me. One day I was in Michigan and I was on my face, prostrate before the Father. My mouth was moving. I was going through the ritual, even to the point of prostrating on the ground, on the floor, talking to him, while my mind is going through my Franklin planner and all the appointments that I have to do and the things that I have to get done. And right there in the midst of while I was praying and talking to him, what the Father showed me, see, he says, listen, your mouth, you're honoring me, but your heart is someplace else. You're talking to me, your lips are moving, words are coming out of your mouth. But what's in your heart is what you got to get done today. And how often we go through life and we talk to God for a few minutes and then we leave him in the prayer closet. We go out and close the door. I'll see you in a little bit. Don't go anywhere because I expect you to be there when I get back. And Father's screaming, I want to go. I want to go with you. I want to order your steps. I want to lead you. I want to guide you. I want to show you. I want to navigate your path. And this is what I believe the Bible means when we're told to pray without ceasing, to always be in tune, to always be in communication. with the Father. How is he going to order your steps if we're not hearing him, if we're not listening, if we don't know what he sounds like? We tell God what we want. Father, this is what I need. I need a husband. I need a wife. I need a job. I need a car. I need this. I need that. I need that. Father, bless me with this. Bless me with that. And Father says, what you need is me. What you need is me. Seek first my kingdom, my righteousness, and all that other stuff will be added. But no, I need this. You give me that, I'll seek you. You give me that, I'll do that. You do this for me, and I'll do that for you. The Father's saying that's not how it works. I'm looking to establish a relationship with you. Why? Because there's some things that I want to show you about yourself. Many of us, we believe the lies. We believe the bad things that people have said about us. We've let people talk down to us. We've let people cause us to think we're crazy. We've let people cause us to think that we've lost our minds. We're insane. We're good for nothing. We deserve all the stuff that we're getting. And we come to a place to where many people believe the lies of the enemy, which causes them not to trust the Father with their very life. And Father's saying, you can trust me. I'm not going to hurt you. I'm not going to leave you. I'm not going to forsake you. I will get you to where I want you to go, because where you think you want to go is not really where you need to be. Today's teaching, how to hear God's voice. As we shared last week, from Genesis to Revelation, we see that Yah is speaking. The Bible opens up in Genesis 1, saying, then God said. Revelations close with the Spirit and bride saying. Throughout biblical history, believers and unbelievers alike have heard the voice of God. Adam and Eve, along with their murdering son Cain, all heard the Creator's voice. Prophets, kings, pharaohs, and even the common working man had encounters and were given direction directly from Jehovah's mouth. Moses said, he humbled you, because the question that becomes, he says, he humbled you, causing you to hunger, and then feeding you with manna, which neither you nor your fathers had known. He's talking to Moses, and Moses is speaking this to the people, and he says, to teach you that man does not live on bread alone, but on every word that comes from the mouth of Jehovah. Yeshua said, it is written, quoting the prophet, quoting Moses, man does not live on bread alone, but on every word that comes from the mouth of God. And so what I'm looking for, even when I read the scriptures, I'm looking for the words that came from the mouth of Jehovah to his servant, the prophets. I'm looking for what comes from his mouth. Now, that's one aspect of it. Because Yeshua came and said, he didn't come to abolish the law or the prophet. That the word of Jehovah is for us today, and we've got to identify and learn how he speaks to us, where he speaks to us, what is he saying to us, what is he asking us to do? Because chances are he's asking us to do some stuff we don't want to do. It's not in our plan or our agenda. Yeshua also said, but he that entered in by the door is the shepherd of the sheep. To him the porter opens, and the sheep hear his voice. And he calls his own sheep by name and lead them out. And when he put forth his own sheep, he go before them, and the sheep follow him, for they know his voice. And a stranger they will not follow, but will flee from him, for they know not the voice of strangers. How to hear God's voice, part 2. Here's the question, ladies and gentlemen. Why does Jehovah communicate with his people? Why do he want you to hear his voice? This is what Moses said in Deuteronomy, verse 4, or chapter 4, verse 33 and following. Did ever people hear the voice of God speaking out of the midst of the fire as you heard and lived? I want to stop here for just a moment because as I continue to read this, as I continue to study and look at the words of the Torah and think about the awesomeness of what happened at Mount Sinai, it's one time in history that we know of that we can literally point to scripture and say that every Israelite, every person who came out of Egypt following the Almighty simultaneously, all at once, heard his voice. Every last one of them. The Father is speaking, and there is not a creature alive in the midst of them that does not hear the voice. Every one of them. That's the plan that the Father laid out. Bring the people. I want to introduce myself to them. I want to speak to them. I want to have a relationship with them. I want them to know my voice so I can distinctly, orderly move them from where they are to where they need to go. It was not the Father's plan for Moses to be a mediator. Not originally. Even at creation. Everybody heard the voice. Adam heard it. Eve heard it. The serpent heard it. The trees heard it. All the animals heard it. Adam, where are you? It's like everybody heard. See, the Father desires all of his people to hear his voice, to know what he sounds like, to follow his instruction. Or has God ever tried to go and take for himself a nation from the midst of another nation by trials, by signs, by wonders, by war, by a mighty hand, by an outstretched arm, and by great terror, as Jehovah your God did for you in Egypt before your very eyes? Moses is saying to the Israelites, let me tell you something, folks. You all are history in the making. In other words, the Father, at this particular juncture in time, decides that he's going to choose a people. He does something he has never done in history before. A whole people. Now, of course, he saved Noah and his sons and their wives. But an entire people to establish a nation. He says it's never been done before. To you, it was shown that you might realize and have personal knowledge. You see, the Father doesn't want you believing in him because of what somebody else said. His relationship with you is not based on your mom's relationship with him, or your dad's relationship with him, or your uncle, or your brother, or your sister. He desires to know you. To you, it was shown that you might realize and have personal knowledge that Jehovah is God. Remember the woman at the well? The woman at the well has an encounter with Yeshua. He tells her about herself. She goes back into the city. Next thing you know, she's brought the city out. And the people said, you know what? We heard what the woman said, but now we know for ourselves. You see, ministry, evangelism, what we're talking about, preaching, teaching, and reaching, is to bring the message of truth to people, not that we can be a mediator between them and the Father. Our goal is to make the connection. You see, my job is to get out of the way. But people want to keep me in the midst. You see, effective ministry is to tell you what Jehovah says, to connect you to him, and then allow him to lead you. Otherwise, people will get in the way. And guess what? Your human nature prefer there to be a person between you and the Almighty. Now, I don't care what you say with your mouth, because I know humans. I know the nature. You know how I know it? When you have a question, you ask somebody else before you ask him. People get sick. They'll call a doctor sometimes before they call the Father. They'll call on somebody to pray for them before they ask the Father to heal them. They'll seek for mediators. They'll seek for answers. They'll seek for someone to intercede. Or I'm just calling all of the prayer warriors because I need God. I need to get a prayer through, and I need you to put my name. Now, I'm not mocking anybody, folks. I'm just calling it like it is. And sometimes that gets me in trouble because people hear and they say, he's talking about me. Well, I'm talking about you. So we're not going to hide that fact today. I'm talking about all you, sisters. Okay? We have a tendency to call and want, okay, put me on the prayer list, put me on that prayer list, I need the intercessors to pray. Okay, how much time have you spent talking to him? Because let me tell you something about Father. If there's an issue in your life that he needs to intervene, the first thing he want to do is to get a hold of you to show you you. But because we're human beings, and let me tell you something, every last one of you, every last one of us have a addictive personality. We just may not be addicted to the same thing. But every one of us have something that comforts us other than the comforter. And we seek that comforter for comfort when we need comfort instead of getting in the presence of the Almighty and allowing him to deal with us. Now, let me tell you something about addictive behavior. Because I know a little bit about addictive behavior. I was an addict for a lot of years. I was an addict on everything. You see, there's something about addictive behavior that keeps a person in a pattern of addiction. And you know what that is? Reality. Reality is painful. When we think about what has to be done, when we think about what needs to be done and that we're the person for the job, sometimes that's a painful reality. Especially when we're looking in situations and we're looking at our lives and we see the messes that we've made and we find ourselves at the center of the mess. It's easier to blame someone else for our problems than it is to blame ourselves. That's an addictive personality. The moment you begin to shift the blame to somebody else for what you are experiencing right now is a person who is not ready to deal with reality. Because regardless to how you got here, what are you going to do to get out of it? And so when we get into the presence of the Father starts showing us stuff about ourselves that we don't like. He wants to deal with us, but we want him to deal with somebody else. So now, okay, well, Father wants to talk about me. I want him to do this over here, and he's trying to get me to do stuff. I mean, we've had that conversation before. I wasn't going to do it then, and I'm not doing it now. Now, some of us don't actually say that. Our actions say that. So he wanted to show you that you might realize and have personal knowledge that Jehovah is God. There is no other besides him. Out of heaven, he made you hear his voice. Now notice, Moses is talking to the children of Israel and says, now every last one of you heard his voice. But what was your response? Don't talk to us. Talk to my agent. Talk to my pastor. Talk to my husband. Talk to my wife. Talk to my boss. Don't talk to me. That he might correct. You see this? Out of heaven he made you hear his voice, that he might correct, that he might discipline, that he might admonish you. These are all painful words to the flesh. Correction is not, it's not good when it comes. I mean, it's not pleasant, as it says. Father wants to correct us. We want him to fix something. He wants to correct us. Because we know, I mean, he knows, okay, I can fix that because of the condition you're in. I mean, after all, even though you're blaming somebody for the mess over there, if you don't get fixed, you'll just make the mess somewhere else because you're messy, and mess will follow you. Now, if you want the mess to stop, let me clean up the mess, and the mess is you. So when he gets in our face, I mean, you know, it's like we don't want to hear what he has to say because I don't think we're gonna like what he's gonna say. Habakkuk had to get to a place to where he says, listen, you know, I need to prepare myself because I'm about to go in here and have a conversation with the Almighty. And I know he's gonna say some stuff. So let me get my pencil. Let me get my, well, he probably didn't have a pencil, but let me get my writing utensils. And I'm gonna sit here on my watch and I'm gonna wait so that when he speaks, I'm gonna write it down. He didn't trust his mind to hear what the Father said. He says, I'm gonna write it down. But he knew that if he put himself in a position to where Father would speak, he was going to speak. The society in the world that we live in continues to bombard us and to make us busy with all kinds of stuff. You're busy, busy, busy doing nothing. Well, what I'm doing is important. Yes, it's important, but it is as important as hearing the voice of the Father. Because let me tell you something. One word from him, and it changes everything. Just one word. He can change your circumstance in just a moment. Some of you heard we had a neighbor making life miserable for us. I mean, we've got a room back there that is a door that swings both ways. This guy, he put these big old heavy tractor tires at the door so we couldn't get access to the sink on purpose. I mean, this is the kind of stuff I'm in here contemplating. Father, I just need heaven. I need lightning to strike this guy. I need you to do something. I need him to know that, hey, I'm your servant and he don't mess with me like that. The Father says, you know what? Really, he's doing this because he thinks that you have disrespected him. Now, I'm searching my heart. I've not disrespected him. Okay, well, what do? Apologize. Apologize for what? Apologize for disrespecting him. I didn't disrespect him. It doesn't matter what you think. That's what he thinks. See, when a person is fixed in their mind that something is a certain way, you can spend your life trying to convince them that it is not that way, but they've already come to the conclusion that that's the way it is. So, this is not going to be one of those five and dimes apologies. Hey, listen, if I offended you in any way, please forgive me. Now, the Father says the man thinks you disrespected him. So I goes over to him and I says, listen, Man, I apologize for disrespecting you. Those very words. You know, at that very moment, that person who was my sworn enemy became a advocate. He went from adversary to advocate, all from an apology that I gave that I didn't believe I owed. But it didn't matter what I believe, it's what he said. You see what I'm saying? One word from him, and it just changed the entire environment around here. One word from him will change your house. One word from him will change your spouse. You hear what I'm saying? So what we have to do is we have to get out of the way, get into his presence, let him speak to us, and then do what he said do. Because what's the point of him speaking to you if you're not going to obey it? That's why we do the Shema every Sabbath. Hear and obey. It's not just something nice to do. The word of Jehovah is about to come, and the word of Jehovah is going to speak to your heart, and he's going to give you some instructions, and he's going to show you something that you need to do, and you need to write it down, and then make haste to do it. Because if you procrastinate, the enemy is going to come in circumstances and situations you go out there, oh man, I got a flat. All of a sudden, all that information that you were storing in your brain gets dumped. You fixed the flat on your way home, and here you go. Now, God said something to me today. What was that? What was that he said? Man. Anybody ever have one of those moments? See, he spoke to you, but how do you take what he say? Is it something you take lightly? Most of us take the word, the voice of Jehovah very lightly. The way you know you haven't taken it lightly is you do like the psalmist says, you do like the word says, is you guard it. You guard it. You do like Habakkuk says, you write it down. You write it down and you've got a record of it. It's not just in your mind because the enemy is coming. Whenever the word of Jehovah is spoken, whenever the word is sown in your heart, the enemy is coming immediately to steal it. You can't trust your mind. I don't care how good your memory is. See, we remember a lot of useless stuff. We got figures and numbers and formulas in our heads. But the word, when it is sown, see, the enemy is not coming to get that information you got. He's coming to get the word. That's why a lot of you experience warfare. Because it's the enemy coming to steal something from you. That's what he does. He says, out of heaven he made you hear his voice. He made you. The people weren't looking to hear the voice of Jehovah. He called them. He initiated the meeting. He says, Moses, you tell the people in 3 days I'm coming down. You get them ready. You tell them what to do, and I'm going to meet them. I want to meet with them. I want them to present themselves to me. And see, this is what the book of Romans talks about, presenting your body as living sacrifice. It's presenting ourselves every Sabbath, every feast day is a presentation. See, the day that he has set apart to meet with us, he's coming to meet with us, and we are coming to meet with him. That's the whole point of the Moedim. It's an appointed time. It's a time where he's set, and through us collectively gathering together, where he is in the midst of us, he is coming to communicate to each and every one of us where you are. See, what you hear over here and back there and over here is going to be totally different. Because through the words that I'm speaking, the Holy Spirit is taking words that I'm speaking, taking a piece off for you, taking a piece off for you, and everybody is hearing, just like on the day of Pentecost, on Shavuot, as they were speaking in tongues, everybody was hearing in their own language the wonderful works of Jehovah. So that's why I'm not surprised when people say, that message was just for me. Well, that message was just for me. And if I ask you, well, what part of the message was just for you? That's the reason I'm asking you what part, because I'm trying to help seal it. How many times we've gone and you've heard people say, man, that was a good message today. That was a good service today. Okay, well, what was said? What was said? People they remember the experience because the adrenaline flowed. They got happy. They got excited. There was joy. And in the midst of all the adrenaline and all the joy and all the happiness and all the excitement and all of being in the presence of other people, the word escapes. But it doesn't go on its own. Somebody came to take it. The whole purpose is that if it doesn't get sown in your heart, you will not apply it. If you don't apply it, you're a hearer, not a doer. If you're a hearer only, you deceive yourself. And if you're deceived, you will think you know, but don't know. You'll have the head knowledge, but you won't walk it out. You'll continue to learn, continue to get information, but never come into the knowledge of truth. You see, it's the truth that makes you free, not just the information. It's when you get the truth, you apply the truth, you walk the truth, and then you see the Almighty who watches over that truth to bring it to pass. Having information is dangerous if you're not going to apply it. It's better for you not to know. So why does he want us to hear his voice? He says, I made you. He made you hear his voice because he wanted to correct you. See, he's bringing them out of a way of doing things. Can you imagine? I know we fall in love with the 10 Commandments and we see the outstretched hand of the Almighty. But here's what we don't see. See, we don't see all the abuses each one of those Israelites and those strangers who left Egypt, we don't see their personal life. We don't see the Egyptian raping the wife or raping the daughter or beating the son. We don't see the injustices that each of these individuals experienced. We see that they were in bondage. We see that they were mistreated. We see that they were abused. But we don't see the personal story of each of these people. Every last one of them had a personal issue, personal story. All of them were slaves. And there is no such thing as good treatments for slaves in Egypt in the day. They were beaten. They were tortured. They were abused. They were denied basic rights. They had to make bricks without straw. I mean, all kinds of stuff. As a people and as individuals, every last one of those Israelites had a story. That's why Father wanted them all to have a relationship. Because they all had a story. He says, I know your story. 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 I got the answer. But let me talk to you about you. Because with every story, there are deficiencies that are established as a result of what people go through. See, every situation you experience causes you to adapt. And through adapting to circumstances, situations, problems, issues, abuses, disappointments, letdowns, being taken advantage of, we automatically, through adapting, become something totally different than we were designed to be. We've gotten lost in life. We've gotten lost in circumstances, lost in situations, lost in family issues, lost in female issues, lost in male issues, lost in identity issues. We suffer from an identity crisis. And we all want to be ourselves, but we don't know who we are. So now we want you to respect me. We want you to treat me right. We don't want you to diss me. Who do you think you're talking to? You don't know who I am, do you? Do you know who you are? Because chances are you don't. And if you think you do, and you call yourself a believer, understand that your true identity is hid in Messiah. Which means that even though you think you know who you are, you still got to die to you. But many of us have been almost left for dead. Life has beaten many of us up. If you grew up in a hometown where I grew up from, when you swore the first chance you got, you was getting up out of there. You grew up in a house like I grew up in, and all you could think about was running away. If you grew up in a school that I grew up in, well, all you saw was people teasing people, and you thought about your future and what you were going to be, and think about what you said you were going to be when you were young, and now that you're old and you look at what you've become. When you ask yourself, am I where I'm supposed to be? Is this part of the plan that I set for my life? Did I settle? Did I go with the program? Did I not rock the boat when I should have rocked the boat? Did I go along with the situations that I shouldn't have gone along with? Because all of that history is what brought you to where you are. All of that history is what caused you to think about yourself the way you think about yourself. And many of you, if you're anything like me, you're pretty hard on yourself. Father said, I got a better plan. Because, see, I love you more than you love you. I know the plans that I have for you. But I got to get you out of the way before I reveal my plan to you, because if I reveal my plan to you the way you are, you're just going to mess it up too. Because you're messy. Now, I'm not preaching at you folks. I'm just telling you. See, Father says, I made you to hear my voice. Why? Because I need to correct you. I need to discipline you. I need to admonish you. And on earth, he made you see his great fire, and you heard his words out of the midst of the fire, because he loved your ancestors, chose their descendants after them, and brought you out of Egypt with his presence and great power. See, I know for a fact, I have to believe this. I knew my mom and dad. I knew my grandfather on my mother's side. I didn't know my grandfather or grandmother on my father's side. I have no idea what their parents were like. But here's what I have to believe. I have to believe that somewhere back in my family tree, somebody had a right relationship with the Father. I have to believe that. I have to believe that because of where I am today. You see, I was on the same track as everybody else in my family. And throughout all of our lives, I know the Father has been trying to get our attention. Some of us are easier to get a hold of than others. Some of us are just flat out hard-headed. My parents used to say to me all the time, boy, a hard head makes a soft behind. That's what they used to say. I had a hard head, thick skull. You know, the more I think about it, maybe Alpha does take after me. Because I was, as they say, I was a hard-headed scoundrel booger. I was mischievous, hard-headed, devious little fella who could charm mama. Oh, I was a charmer. You know what I'm saying? Oh yeah, I was a charmer. But I didn't even realize that I had, I had some Cain brothers and sisters, and I was able. They tell me stories. You had mama wrapped around your feet, just like that. I did. Yes, you did. Anyway, because he loved your ancestors, is what he's saying. You see, somebody in your tree somewhere is a result, is the reason why you are where you are today. And here's what I intend. If Yeshua tarries, I intend to be the marker for my family going forward. That if he tarries for another 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 generation, even though my great, 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 great grandson may not know who I am, they will be blessed as a result of the stand that I'm taking right now. You can stop the madness today. Whatever the madness have been, whatever house you were brought up in, whatever circumstance you were born in, you can stop the madness today, or you can continue to make the excuses that you are in the condition you are in because of your parents, because of the city you grew up in, because of the house you grew up in, because of all the stuff that happened to you. Every last one of those Israelites had a story. And when Father brought them to the foot of that mountain, he says, listen, I am your everything. I'm all you need. I know what you need, and I have already supplied your needs. I got a place for you. As a matter of fact, before I came and got you out of Egypt, I've already prepared a place for you, and it's a land flowing with milk and honey, with houses you didn't build, wells you didn't dig, olive trees you didn't plant. I did all that because of the promise I made to your ancestors. And I watch over my word. Bible says he remembered his promise. See, he's not a forgetful God. Because he loved your ancestors, chose their descendants after them, and brought you out of Egypt with his presence and great power. And because he loved your fathers, he chose their descendants after them and brought you out from Egypt with his own presence by his mighty power, driving out nations from before you, greater and mightier than yourselves. I mean, when you think about it, the Father, man, this is why it is so important for us to develop that relationship, because he goes before us. He's our rear guard. He's encamped all about us. He's a high tower. He watches over us while we can sleep. He says, driving out nations from before you, greater and mightier than yourself, to bring you in, to give you their land for an inheritance, as it is this day. Know, recognize, understand, therefore, this day and turn your mind and heart to it, that Jehovah is God in the heavens above and upon the earth beneath. There is no other. Therefore, you shall keep his statutes and his commandments, which I command you this day, that it may go well with you, and your children after you. Now, what he's saying, and your children after you, is your children, your children's children, your children's children's children, your children's 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 children, and that you may prolong your days in the land which Jehovah your God gives you forever. And then there's this Psalms. And for this one, I just want us to, I want to encourage you to bring your Bibles, because from time to time we're going to read. I want to get to a certain place, and it looks like we may not get there, but we'll get as far as we can. Psalms 95. Oh, come, let us sing unto Jehovah. Let us make a joyful noise to the rock of our salvation. Let us come before his presence with thanksgiving and make a joyful noise unto him with songs. You know, no matter what you are going through, no matter where you are, I try to visualize, as you've heard me say this before, and you'll hear me say some of the same stuff over and over and over and over again, because repetition is good, especially truth. We need to hear it over and over again. When I look at David, I read David saying, bless the Lord. I mean, think about this. Bless the Lord, O my soul. Who is he talking to? And all that is within me. See, I believe that there are times in our lives when we're going through stuff that we're feeling down, unworthy, and undeserving, that we've got to make ourselves praise him. We've got to force a praise. I could see David going through, probably because of something he did, saying, bless the Lord, O my soul. All that is in me, bless his holy name. For he has done great things. I mean, I can imagine him having to work himself up to a place to where he get out of his flesh into his spirit, cry out to the Almighty, and the Almighty hear him from heaven. There are times when we don't feel like praising him. There are times when we don't feel like giving him the worship that is due. Every day, I encourage you, start your day off. This is a day, not just on the Sabbath. This is a day Jehovah has made. I will rejoice. And let me just give you a pointer. Because see, I believe that the dream last night was from pondering the sparrow in the yard. You see, oftentimes what you go to bed with on your mind is what's going to affect you during your sleep, and you are going to wake up with. This is why before you go to bed, let me just give you some pointers. You need to get some pleasant thoughts. And the best thoughts to get is the thoughts of Jehovah. I'm preaching to myself in my sleep last night. And I do it all the time, especially on Friday nights. During the course of the night, I'm ministering and preaching in my dream. And then I get up in the morning and I'm putting PowerPoints together, and I'm watching as I'm looking at the scriptures that the Father is giving me. And I'm sitting there getting all excited and getting all blessed. And I know that, this blessed me. People are going to get blessed by this message because I'm blessed by it, you see. You've got to make yourself do things you don't want to do. When you don't feel like praising, that's the best time to praise. Somebody said there's 2 times to praise and there's 2 times only to praise. When you feel like it and when you don't. It's not about how you feel. You have to make yourself praise him. Because when you make yourself praise him, you get out of yourself. See, you've got this spirit that desires the things of the spirit. But the flesh desires the things of the flesh. That's why when you feel down, you want to be around down people. You don't want to be around excited people when you feel down. You ever notice that? The flesh don't like excited people when the flesh don't feel right. Misery loves company. You get around a down person, they open their mouth and their downness is now being dumped on you. I get around a down person, I'm going to go to work to cheer them up. If they refuse to be cheered up, see ya. I learned a long time ago, God don't come to pity parties. He likes to party, but he don't like a pity party. He really don't. When you're done over there soaking and sobbing and talking about woe is me, then you call on me. For Jehovah is a great El and a great king above all Elohims. In his hand are the deep places of the earth. The strength of the hills is his also. The sea is his, and he made it. And his hands formed the dry ground. Oh, come, let us worship and bow down. Let us kneel before Jehovah, our Maker. For he is our Elohim, and we are the people of his pasture and the sheep of his hand. Today, if you will hear his voice, harden not your heart as in the provocation, as in the day of temptation in the wilderness, when your fathers tempted me, proved me, and saw my work. 40 years long was I grieved with that generation, and said, it is a people that do err in their heart, and they have not known my ways, unto whom I swear in my wrath, they should not enter into my rest. The day you hear his voice, see, the day you're hearing his voice, I know you are. There's some things that is coming out and being spoken to you, and you know who you are. And the Father's trying to get you to allow him to come in and to bring the healing and to allow you. See, some of you all are afraid to be free because you've gotten used to bondage. You're afraid of laughing. You're afraid of enjoying life. You're afraid of being free and allowing the Holy Spirit to really move and manifest himself in you. You're afraid of what other people might say, what other people might think. You're afraid you might mess up. You might make a mistake. God hasn't given you a spirit of fear. Hebrews chapter 3. Verse 7. Wherefore, as the Holy Spirit says, today, if you will hear his voice, harden not your hearts, as in the provocation, in the day of temptation in the wilderness, when your fathers tempted me, proved me, and saw my works for 40 years. I mean, Hebrews is basically verbatim to Psalms. As I was saying on Thursday for discipleship class, it's amazing that the book of Hebrews is in the Greek New Testament. Isn't that amazing? The book of Hebrews translated from the Greek. When your fathers tempted me, proved me, and saw my works 40 years, verse 10, wherefore I was grieved with that generation and said, they do always err in their heart, and they have not known my ways. So I swore, I swear in my wrath, they shall not enter into my rest. And then look at verse number 15. While it is said today, if you will hear his voice, harden not your hearts, as in the day of provocation. For some, when they had heard, did provoke, howbeit not all that came out of Egypt by Moses. But with whom was he grieved 40 years? Was it not with them that had sinned, whose carcasses fell in the wilderness? And to whom sware he that they should not enter into his rest? But to them that believe not. So we see that they could not enter into his rest because of unbelief. Now, I'm compelled to go into the next verse because for all of my Christian friends out there who think that the gospel was established in Matthew, you need to read this. Let us therefore fear, lest a promise being left us of entering into his rest, any of you should seem to come short of it. For unto us was the good news preached as well as unto them. Who is the them? Them in the wilderness. The good news was preached to them, just as it is now being preached to us. The gospel was preached to them in the wilderness. Is that what it says in your Bible? But the word preached did not profit them. Well, who was the preacher? Moses was the preacher. Moshe. But what was he preaching? The word of Jehovah. The gospel. In the wilderness. The gospel. In the book of Exodus. The gospel in the book of Leviticus. The gospel in the book of Numbers and Deuteronomy. It's all gospel. Unless the Hebrew writers got it wrong. And what was the problem? The word preached did not profit them, not being mixed with faith in them that heard it. How do we harden our hearts today? One is we ignore his voice. You see, in the book of Hosea, chapter number 4. Many of you know part of this verse, but let's read the whole verse. Hosea 4:6. My people are destroyed for lack of knowledge. That's where the Baptists stopped. My people are destroyed for lack of knowledge. It's amazing how Baptists, Methodists, Presbyterians, Pentecostals want to throw that verse out there like that's the end of the verse. My people are destroyed for lack of knowledge. How many of you have heard that in your churches? Because thou hast rejected knowledge, I will also reject you, that you shall be no priest to me, seeing you have forgotten the law of your Elohim. I will also forget your children. Generational curse. That's a generational curse. When the father says, I'm going to forget your children, that's a generation gone. Why? Because of the curse of the law. The curse of the law is that if you don't obey it, you will be cursed. Now, ignore his voice. How has he spoken? How is he spoken? We're going to get to that. Not today, because I'm already pushing you all to the limit. How do we harden our hearts? Ignore his voice. See, some of us don't start out saying, I'm going to ignore his voice. It's hearing his voice and not doing what he say. That's a form of ignoring it. I'm not going to ignore it. I'm just not going to do it. Well, you don't say I'm not going to do it. You just don't do it because other stuff gets in the way and gets ahead of what he says. And pretty soon you've forgotten it. Excuse me. Some people heard these messages years ago. I'm amazed sometimes. And, again, I'm not talking about people, but I hear all the time of, I heard this message, 10 years ago. And I walked away from it. How many people that we encounter who heard about the name and who heard about the Sabbath and people who used to keep the Sabbath, but religion got mixed in with it. And all the religion and all the traditions choked the real word out, and people they left the church not because of the Father, but because of the religion and the traditions and all the stuff that was added that became requirements in order to be a part of it. So one way we harden our heart is by ignoring his voice. A second way is refuse to listen. I don't care what God said. Or, I know what he said, but I know what the Bible says, but. Think about that. Remember the times you said that? I certainly remember the times I've said it. Well, I know what the word says, but. In other words, I'm saying, yeah, I know that's true, but that doesn't apply here. Why? Because I'm exempt from the word. I got a better way. I know what the word says, but that doesn't work. I know what the word says, but you don't know who I'm dealing with. So, in other words, he says, but here's what I'm going to do. I know what he says, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to do it this way. Third, disobey his voice. And then fourth, do not do what he tells us to do. That's like disobeying it, but it's like, okay, it's amazing how many people hide in church. I'm going to show up. I'm going to look like everybody else. I'm going to play the role. But let me tell you, when the sun goes down, I got plans. Oh yeah, I'm gonna go through the motion. I'm gonna put on the good game face, the Sabbath face, the Torah face. When we listen and walk in obedience to what Jehovah say, we prosper. If you look back at every time you were obedient to what he said, you would see the hand of the Almighty. We walk in the realm of life and blessings. We have peace. We feel good about ourselves. When we listen and walk in obedience to what Jehovah say, we are able to hear his voice more clearly for ourselves and for others. When we don't listen and walk in disobedience to what Jehovah say, we walk in the realm of death and curses. We don't have peace. We don't feel good about ourselves. There's a sense of nervousness, anxiety, fears. When we don't listen and walk in disobedience to what Jehovah say, we feel guilty. A lot of us, the guilt that we feel because of whatever is because of disobedience. It's like when we lie, we feel guilty. When we sneak, we feel guilty. When we do something we're not supposed to do, we feel guilty. And whether you know it or not, it emits signals. Now, children aren't wise enough. No, not wise. Children haven't learned how to lie with a straight face as a child. But if you are a liar and you grow up, you become a liar who can lie with a straight face and look believable, even though you're lying. And we've encountered a lot of them. They tell us one thing and they do something else. And we believe them. When we do stuff we know we're not supposed to do. This is why Adam hid. This is why Eve hid. They knew that they had done something they weren't supposed to. They felt guilty. They didn't feel good about themselves. They were ashamed of what they had done. And they hide from the very person who is able to save them. See, people hide from God. They think that because, I'm not going to go up in that church house and play with God. I'm not going to play with the Lord. Like them hypocrites up in there. They're all up in there playing with the Lord. They know they're not living right. I am not like that. So you got people hiding in the church and you got people hiding in the world because they think God don't see them. They know what they're doing, but they think he don't see them and that he can't help them. And ultimately what they're saying is, I don't want his help. When I'm ready for him, then I'll get it right. When I'm ready, I'm not ready yet. I'm too young. I got too much life ahead of me. I got too many things I want to do. I can't do that if I start serving him. See, some people are hell-bent on making a disaster of their lives because they get to the pinnacle of what it is they thought they wanted only to jump off head first. See, the whole duty of man is to fear him and keep his commands. Even if you don't know his voice, you know his word. His word and his voice is the same. And when we begin to apply the word and become committed to applying the word that he's laid out before us, then he says, okay. Because if you notice how long Israel was in Egypt without hearing his voice, you see how long they were in the wilderness before he decided to meet with them. You see how long he told them to get ready and prepare themselves so that he can visit with them. And you see, after all of that, when they finally had an encounter with him, what did they do? They are no different than we are. Why? When you come into the presence of the Almighty, when you make the decision that you're going to walk with him, what is he going to do? He's going to correct you. He's going to discipline you. He's going to admonish you. He's going to tell you things. And listen, I've already had enough. I've had enough people telling me what I can't do. I had enough of people telling me what I should do and what I shouldn't do. I had enough of people trying to ruin my life or run my life or tell me where I can go or where I can't go. I've had enough. I am living my life my way. Because I've had enough. And when we get to that point to where we've had enough of people, even the Father is put off to the side. I've had enough. Some people would rather die than surrender. Here's what I think of you. Bam! Now they'll all suffer. Let me tell you something, folks. It's easier to surrender, although it may feel hard. See, I know right now there's about 3 people. I can sense them They're literally thinking about taking their life. They are at the end of their rope. And I'm saying to you, don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. It's not worth it. Father has a plan. And his plan is to prosper you, to do you good, to give you a hope and a future. It's not to harm you. People who have taken advantage of you and have misused you have been people who have been used by the enemy for the purpose of stealing, killing, and destroying. The devil knows where he's going to spend eternity. And he want to take as many people with him. And let me tell you something, folks. There are people on the planet right now that have been predestined for hell. And nothing you can say is going to change it. Nothing you can do can change it. You can preach to them till you're blue in the face and they still won't get it. That's why Yeshua says, shake the dust. Why are you wasting your time with that hard head? Why are you wasting your time with that swine? Why are you casting your pearls among swine? Shake the dust off your feet. Woe to them. You move on. And many of these people are in our family and got our last biological names. But the Father hear you. He know where you are. He know what you're going through. And he's saying, don't quit. Don't give up. There's hope. I want you to learn my voice so that I can navigate you through all of the landmines, all of the traps, all of the snares that the enemy has set to blow you up the moment you step off the path. When we don't listen and walk in disobedience to what Jehovah say, we feel guilty, disconnected, uninspired. That's depressed. See, once depression sets in, Cymbalta can't help you. What Cymbalta will do is put a mask between you and the Almighty. Put a shield. Deaden your senses, deaden your mind, put your spirit to sleep, and you become a zombie dependent on Cymbalta. You hear what I'm saying? Drugs is not what you need. What you need is the physician who prescribes the medication, and the medication is the Holy Spirit. Just a few more. When we don't listen and walk in disobedience to what Jehovah said, we become selfish, distrustful, destructive, angry, and an instrument to be used by the devil. And this is where the majority of the people walking the planet today is. And then just a couple of more verses, and I'm going to quit. This part. As many as I love, I rebuke. As many as I love, I chasten. As many as I love, be zealous therefore and repent. You see, what he's saying in Revelations is no different than what he's saying in a sense to the children of Israel. He says, I brought you out. Why? Why do I want you to know me, to hear my voice? Because I need to correct you. I need to discipline you. I need to admonish you. I need to rebuke you. I need to chasten you so that you can repent. Behold, I stand at the door and knock. If any man hear my voice and open the door, I will come into him and I will sup with him and he with me. He that hath an ear, let him hear what the Spirit said unto the congregation. I want to pray.
For more information, visit www.arthurbaileyministries.com or call 888-899-1479. House of Israel International Services is made possible through financial contributions from brothers and sisters like you. Thank you.